Hello and welcome to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, the Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Indianapolis District. The Roadshow is brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. For more information about our sponsor, visit www.indianasfinest.com. We want to thank our good friend Eddie for getting us on the radio. He comes in earlier than he's supposed to, and he gets us on the radio, and we certainly appreciate that in our partnership with Network Indiana, getting us on the radio across the state. Tom Trial, working hard even with a cast on his hand to get us on YouTube.
Fishing injury.
Thank Tom for that. He works real hard, and we certainly appreciate all the content that he has put. And he recently started doing these Throwback Thursdays that I've enjoyed so much.
Yeah,
I love it.
Pretty awesome.
Looking back at all these photos from 15 years ago, and all of us, doesn't seem like we should be around that long, but you look back and you're like, I remember that like it was yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So our guests today, familiar faces to those that have tuned in the show, Captain Ron Gallivan, Chief PIO for the State Police. Captain,
Hi,
thanks.
John. Thank you.
Yeah, and the PIO from the Bloomington District, Sergeant Kevin Getz. Kevin,
John,
thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Wearing
Thank
your Cops Cycling for Survivors gear today.
Yes, I am.
What an exciting time. I'm sure this is something you look forward to every year.
It is, and this time of year is always the mad rush right before the opening ceremonies. So we're getting everything organized quickly, and then July 10th, the cyclists will be leaving Indianapolis at the Police and Fire Memorial. We'll have our opening ceremonies at 8:00, and then for the next 13 days, I will do nothing but bike, eat, and sleep.
Wow. So let's rewind just a little bit because we know the event's coming up. But for those that maybe aren't familiar, let's start at the very beginning. What is the event? How did it start? And what do you guys do?
It really started with Gary Dudley when he was out at the academy, and as we know, and some of the viewers may not know, there was the academy class that lost 3 troopers out of the same class, including 2 roommates. And that was something that Gary really felt like he wanted to do something to kind of honor those guys. And so he got connected with Indiana cops, and then he started initially riding out to D.C. For a couple of years for Police Week.
So they would start in Indiana, a group of police officers and others would bike together all the way to Washington,
D.C. All the way to Washington, D.C. for Police Week with the Unity Tour. Well, then he decided he wanted to keep it more local. And so he and Gary Martin, they started this ride. We'll do 13 days. We'll ride around the state of Indiana, and we're going to visit surviving families. We're going to visit affected agencies who've just lost an officer. And, we're going to pledge to them that we're never going to forget their officer and their families and the agency. So he really got that thing going. Unfortunately, as many of us know in the state police, in 2006, in August, we lost Gary, both Garys. And that really was the kickstart that really got me started with this.
And even more gut-wrenching is we lost Gary Dudley and Gary Martin on the cops ride.
On the ride. For the very thing that he was committed to, he both those men lost their life. But, I always look at that as, we could always view it extremely in a very tragic way. And don't get me wrong, it is, I wish he was still around. I regret that I never had the opportunity to pedal with him for 5 feet.
Yeah.
But as they say, out of the ashes rises the phoenix. And this organization has blossomed and grown because of what those 2 men started. We have officers from all around the state, not just the state police, various agencies. We have friends of law enforcement. We have survivors that ride with us. So, and the fact that we can also raise money and then support nearly 25 scholarships and foundations is really a testament to what those 2 men started.
Wow. And any of us, probably 18 years on or more, the respect that we all hold for Gary Dudley, for what he was, what he stood for, for his integrity, for his service, for his commitment to the not just us as the trainees that he was training, but to the state police. Just there's nobody else like him.
The legacy of that man, and Ron and I were in the same class together, and it was always. He was the classic never judge a book by its cover. You know, when everybody would line up for PT and we thought, he's going to lead PT? What?
1, 2, 3, stay with me.
And he would PT us into the ground.
Would, right?
So, but yeah, the legacy that he left behind, and there isn't a day goes by that I don't think about how he's touched my family, how he's made me a better trooper, a better father, a better husband. So, and it's so important for me to continue that legacy and to continue that pledge to our survivors that as long as we have one person that's willing to sit on a bike and ride 13 days, we're going to do that for you. We're never going to forget your officer. We're never going to forget you.
Yeah, well, I certainly don't know how you guys do it, because if I take a bike ride with my kids for not even a mile, I feel the effects. And so how many miles is it that you guys ride?
It's we figure roughly for the 13 days it'll be just not quite 1,000 miles. Some days we will average, most days we'll average about 85 miles. So some days are shorter, some days are longer. But the thing that we also really try to emphasize too is that we're not staying in hotels. We're not eating in fancy restaurants. We do a lot of this by donations. We sleep on air mattresses in schools, churches, community centers, because our mission, our goal is to make sure that as much of the money that is raised goes back to those scholarships and foundations that we support.
Wow. Yeah, and I've known a lot of people that participate in the ride, and I've been able to watch it from the outside, and certainly one of the most respectable events in my eyes that the state police participates in and the police agencies across the state. But you know what I think is unique is the legacy, right? You get these troopers and these troopers' families, these police officers, and then they're committed and they're hooked, and they do it year after year, and it just continues to grow.
And as it continues to grow, the cyclists bond with our survivors, and we as cyclists bond with each other. I've gotten to know the Rich family. I got to know Dave. Dave and I became friends, and then in 2007 we lost him on US 24, and it was a gut punch. But over the years, I've grown close to the family. I've watched basketball games and football games, and you almost become surrogate family. And there's days I call Connie and say, "How are things going?" And we have a great conversation. So it's so neat. And there's families who look forward to this ride. Yeah. Every July. They will clear a date on their calendar, knowing that we're coming in. If it's an overnight or if we're having dinner or lunch, they will clear their calendar so that they can meet us and have an opportunity to fellowship with us. And it's absolutely a spectacular event, and I'm just honored to be just a small part of it.
You know, if I can touch too on the legacy, you talked off air a little bit, but talk about the legacy that you've now instilled in your own family as being part of this tradition.
And that's what's really interesting too. From my end, I've had my oldest daughter has participated in this ride. I now have my youngest daughter. She's 22. This will be her second ride, and you see the bear there on the counter. That when I first started in 2007, that was a memento she gave me so that I would have something from each child with me during the ride. And that bear has stayed with me for every mile that I have ridden, and I'm getting ready to start my 17th. So it's really something to see, not only from my perspective with my family, but we also have another father-daughter combination that ride together. We've had fathers and sons ride together, and we've had all families. We've had so it's been fantastic to see that legacy being passed on to the younger officers, younger generations, who are deeply just as committed as I am to what Gary Martin and Gary Dudley set out. So
this is kind of blossomed into quite a big ordeal, because you have your support truck that follows along, that has your equipment and your whatever you guys need. And now you also have escort by the state police motorcycles usually. For safety.
Huge, absolutely.
So people might see this and wonder what's going on, but that's exactly what it is.
I do want to give a big gratitude and a big thanks to the motor units. Those guys really work really hard to keep us safe. And on the hot days, I don't know who has it worse. I always tell those guys, you've got way worse than what we do, because they're sitting on a motorcycle doing 15 miles an hour with that engine heat blowing on them, and then they'll say, well, you guys are doing all the work. And I'm like, but I cannot thank the agencies across the state that are involved. It's not just a state police thing. They help with the escorts. It as they say, it takes a village, and this ride does not function without all the agencies participating, without the help of the Indiana State Police to be able to make this work. I've never felt safer doing this ride because of the commitment of those folks and those agencies to make sure that this thing goes on.
Well, if folks decide they want to make a donation, how can folks help with monitoring?
Absolutely. So we do have a website. It's copscyclingforsurvivors.org. When you go to the website, there's a red donation button. Just click on that, and then you can sponsor a specific rider. You can also donate to general. We have a general donation box. So we absolutely would love for Hoosier folks to donate to this.
And it's important that people know this is absolutely not for profit. Nobody.
Absolutely.
Every single penny that gets donated is staying here in Indiana to help the families of those that have been affected by the tragic loss of a police officer.
Absolutely. So again, that money in turn goes back to foundations and scholarships that have been named after a fallen officer in order to perpetuate that name. And we also, whenever there is a line of duty death, we as an organization also supply a modest check to the family to allow them until benefits can finally kick in. So it another way of us letting the family know that, hey, we're not going to forget you, and we're not going to forget your officer.
So talk about some of the stops that you have coming up. You're kicking off on July 10th, leaving from Indianapolis, kind of going the opposite direction that you normally
direction.
do.
We're actually going to go clockwise.
And I'm sure all 1,000 miles seem like it's uphill.
Hey, well, the first few legs are going to be all uphill because we're going south. But we always we do have a template that we follow. However, that template is modified. So whatever affected agency has lost an officer, we will make a stop at that agency. So day one, in order to honor Officer Sierra Burton, our overnight will be at Richmond Police Department. We'll make a stop in Delphi. We'll also be making a stop at Hamilton County, Elwood, and we're making a DOC stop up north. So we have 5 officers that we're honoring this year. Again, the truck will follow us, so Hoosier communities will see who we are and who we're honoring. So yeah, it's going to be a little different. We haven't done clockwise in a while, but those of us that are down south, we appreciate those hills.
And to just talk about what it means when you come into these communities and you see people standing on the road waving with their flags and
the honks, the gratitude I have for the Hoosier citizens is just immense. They really turn out for us, kids, there's been fire departments that they'll roll out a garrison flag as we go by, and it just those are the things that keep you going, because there's going to be days that are bad, mentally challenging. I've had them, but I'm always remembered something that Gary Dudley had said, that the pain and suffering that you have on this ride is temporary. It's only 13 days. If you're a survivor, you're affected agency, that pain is every day. Yeah. It's Christmas, it's November, it's a random Tuesday in July. Never forget that. So that's something that always enters my mind whenever I'm doing this.
Yeah, well, thanks. You've been listening to our guest, Sergeant Kevin Getz, who's one of the many participants in the Indiana Cops Cycling for Survivors ride that's kicking off on July 10th out of Indianapolis. For more information about their ride, to find their route of travel, or to donate, visit their website at copscyclingforsurvivors.org. And all the information you need is there. And Kevin, I want to sincerely thank you for coming in and talking about this, but also thank you for your commitment to continuing to honor these fallen officers, to put your body through this every single year. Thank you for that.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
And we want to thank everybody for listening. Buckle your seatbelt and drive carefully.